Morning, y'all. Thank you for joining us on July 21st session of the Board of Directors meeting for the Pauley Northwest Atlanta Airport meeting. I call the meeting to order.
Heavenly Father, well, thank you, Lord, for this day that you have given us, Lord. And Lord, as we gather here today, we've got a couple of our friends and colleagues that have gone through some grief times here in the last few weeks. I ask a special prayer for Kerry Tidmore and his family for the loss of his father, and also Terry Tibbetts and his wife Sheila on Sheila's loss of her father this past week. So, Lord, if you would just put your hands around their healing hands and help them through this time. Lord, I ask you now to bless this meeting, bless the faithful people that are here, the guests that have come to witness what is going on for the county. So we ask your blessing on this meeting. We ask these things in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Harry. Next up is the approval of the meeting minutes from the June 16th meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. If we don't have any questions, I'll go ahead and move to a vote. No questions? All in favor of the meeting minutes for the June 16th meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I'll abstain since I was out. Next up is the approval of the financial statements. I have a couple of questions on this, Terry.
Yes.
The income on the Hangar 1 office building rent. We seem to show a little behind, and is that because of the construction build-out schedule that we had on that? It appears that it's about a $3,900.
Yes, that's because we did not start renting that until October.
Okay, that was.
Because we had the delay, remember, in funding.
Yeah.
That pushed us back about 3 months on getting the building open and the occupancy permit and so forth. And so that'll correct itself this year because we'll have a full year. Fuel farm expenses, they seem to be running higher than we thought, and that was Correct.
associated with the condition of the tanks that
Yes.
we received when Halding Jet Center left.
Right, so we did not have any records. They didn't leave us any records, so we had no pedigree on the filters, on the maintenance and so forth. So we basically had to go through a recertification on those tanks. So Perry Brothers came up here and they worked for like 3 full days, replacing filters, hoses, cleaning, valve repair, you know, the normal maintenance kind of things that had fallen behind. So that should not be an issue going forward.
Okay.
The
Fuel
tanks,
trucks?
the fuel farm's been doing great since then.
That's good to hear. The fuel truck lease, is that the addition of the avgas truck?
So there are 2 things going on there. One is that the original fuel truck, remember, we got 6 months free on
Yes.
that as an incentive. And so we're way below what we're showing for annual fuel truck lease for that truck. And the other truck we didn't get until June. So we're adding the avgas truck, and we're now paying for the fuel truck, the Jet A truck, for the full year. So going forward, those will be the full rates.
That avgas truck is what a month?
It's $550 a month.
And $950.
$950 for the Jet A, $550 for the avgas truck.
Okay. I think that's all I had. Anybody else have any questions? And if not, I'll entertain a motion of the financial statements that were distributed to y'all.
Move the approval of the financials.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Terry,
All right.
you are up next, sir.
All right, let's talk about fuel. I did not get y'all a fuel report out this time. I was a little busy last week, so I apologize for that. But I do have some year-end numbers for you that might be of interest. So for the year, and remember this was 3/4 of the year,
No, I'm just thinking for the year, so our years.
for the fiscal year.
Okay,
Yeah, we just ended.
right.
Yep, so for the 1 July through 30 June fiscal year, we sold, in round numbers, we sold 33,000 gallons of avgas, and we wound up with an inventory of 5,274 gallons. That's actually excellent news, because the inventory is already paid for, so that 5,000 gallons will sell for about $20,000. So going forward, we've got about $20,000 worth of, at retail numbers, inventory in the tanks. So that's kind of a carry forward on the books, if you will. So that was good news. And then Jet A, we wound up selling 60,333 gallons of Jet A, which far exceeded anything that I thought we would do for 3/4 of the month or the year. And of course, that was because of Phoenix Air being here. We wound up selling about 30,000 gallons in about 6 weeks to those guys. And that just shows how important it is to have a tenant like that, or several tenants like that. If we had had that for the full year, that would have paid for the operation of the airport. So again, when we get these 29 hangars over here and they're full of corporate tenants, that will be optimistic reason to think that this airport will then become self-sufficient, and just excellent news. So, hang on, I had a phone call come in there and it wiped out my screen. Let me get back to it. We wound up the year with an inventory of over 8,000 gallons of Jet A. So that's another almost $30,000 worth of inventory in the Jet A tanks that we're able to carry forward into this year. So about $50,000 worth of inventory coming across the fiscal year. So the bottom line is that we just had an outstanding financial year last year. We are on track again this year to generate over $500,000 in ad valorem tax for the county. So things are just really, really bright out here at the airport. So couldn't be better. I'll try to get y'all some more detailed fuel numbers if y'all are interested in that. We've got all of the backup and the details for that. But the bottom line is we sold, about 85,000 gallons of fuel total last year in 9 months. So I'm going to continue to have the goal of selling 100,000 gallons for this year. I think that's doable even without Phoenix Air, because we still get a fair amount of drop-in transient corporate type traffic coming through, people like Home Depot and Helicopters Express and those kind of folks. So the FBO, taking on of the FBO for us in this past year was just a huge financial boom for us. So good on you for making that decision. That was a difficult decision for us, I know, but financially that has worked out extremely well for the airport, and I think bodes well for us going forward. Any questions for me?
I do. For the upcoming fiscal year
That we are in that, yes.
right now, what do you see as your biggest challenges?
Biggest challenges.
Hate to put you on the spot, but as an airport director, just what do you
Growth.
see on your radar?
Yeah, continuing to manage our growth. We are full, as you know, I guess I should have mentioned this. So the new flight school that we are still arguing over how to pronounce the name, it's either
This is the gentleman from Florida?
from Florida.
Got it, okay.
He has moved in now. He is here as of last week. You can pronounce it bouquet, boo something, but it's Buiqui, okay? And the gentleman is from Ecuador, is that correct?
Correct.
And so the pronunciation of the Q's and U's is a little different than it is in English, so I've got to get with him and learn how to pronounce that name. But he's planning to bring 3 clones. And with that, we are now 100% full. That we have every office, every hangar occupied. And so we have no place to grow right now. So growth is going to be our biggest challenge. Y'all know that we have over 60 small aircraft on the waiting list for hangars that we do not currently have. So getting those hangars built, getting all of the things needed to provide for that second floor in the business center so that we can finish building that out. Those are all going to be challenges moving forward. All right, go ahead.
Excuse me, on that same note, now, the gentleman, now, did he relocate everything from
No.
Kissimmee, or is he just?
This is a satellite office for them. Yes, Tom?
Terry, I know you have some fuel in reserve, that you paid a certain dollar amount for, but what are you seeing now as far as the cost of fuel?
Fuel is going through the roof, just like automobile fuel. You can pretty much look at your what you're paying at QT and Racetrack, and that trend, even though the exact multiplier isn't quite the same, but the up or down trend is pretty much the same for Jet A and 100 low lead. We are paying about double for both Jet A and 100 low lead now than we're selling for a year ago. And we have no choice but to pass that on to the tenants. Of course, every other airport in our market is doing the same thing. So we're competitive. But unfortunately, fuel and the increase in fuel, that's another challenge that the aviation community as a whole is suffering with.
Let me speak to that too. As an operator, we saw the same thing. We saw these rates plummet during COVID. But our tanks too were full, and we couldn't take advantage of the cheaper inventory because we were holding inventory because we weren't flying. So you were stuck. You had this lower rate of this commodity, so there was no demand, so the price was dropping. And you couldn't take advantage of it. Many people couldn't. We looked at solutions of buying a skid and putting it in, and you just couldn't do it. It was just too costly. It ate up your savings. But
For a short time last summer, you probably saw this Jet A dropped to below $1 a gallon at wholesale. And that's unheard of. We haven't seen that pricing in a decade. Now it's back up. Last quote we got, I think, was for $2.15 a gallon. So that's more than double where it was at the trough last year. Let me introduce Lucas. Lucas, stand up. Lucas Coelho is our work study student. Some people call him the Catch and Release program in the Paulding County Board of Education. And we've enjoyed having Lucas here this summer. Hope to get him back when school starts back. He'll be moving into the 11th grade, and I think has learned a lot about aviation and seems to be very interested in what we do here. So we've been glad to have you, and hope that we'll get you back. All right. Anything else for me? Did Christine show up? Okay, I guess we'll. Let me just say, the museum is going through an audit this morning from the Navy. They have 3 aircraft, the T-34, the BTD destroyer, and the F-14, which are all Navy-owned, but on long-term assignment to the museum. And they have to go through an audit with the Navy periodically, and the Navy comes in and verifies that they're taking proper care of the aircraft and meeting their responsibilities and so forth. And that audit is taking place this week. Christine is here, but she must be over there tied up with the auditors. And we have all been through government audits here as a part of what we do, so you probably are, especially the 2 mayors, are familiar with how detailed that can be. But things are going great in the museum. They are current on all of their obligations to us and continue to be just an excellent tenant for us. Y'all have any questions about the museum? All right, thank you.
thank you, Terry. Next up on our agenda is the acceptance of the American Rescue Plan Act. The FAA grant in the amount of $32,000 with zero match to be used for airport operations and maintenance. Would you like to speak to just a brief?
Let me go ahead and cover these next 2 agenda items together because it's confusing enough that it got me confused. I had sent y'all an email note that said our $13,000 grant grew to $32,000 In fact, that was not the case. What happened was there was it's called the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, CRRSA, which had been signed by President Trump on December 27th. And then in May, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act, that's ARPA, which is another grant program for economic stimulus for America. Airports are a part of both of those grants. So in the first one, we're getting an allocation of $32,000 zero match, and in the second one, we're getting an allocation, I'm sorry, it's actually reversed of that. The first one is the $13,000, and the second one is the $32,000 grant. Both of those are 100% grants, can be used for any legal purpose at the airport. So they're basically economic stimulus grants. Every airport in America that's a public airport financed by FAA funding, primarily through tax money generated on Jet A fuel, is receiving grants based on their number of operations, and that's our allocation per a formula that the FAA has. So do you have any questions about either of these two grants?
These are grants. You are saying that we have these dollar amounts reversed, is that right?
No.
No.
I'm saying that the first one, agenda item number 7,
Yes.
was the second act signed. That one was signed in May of this year.
That's the Biden administration.
That's the Biden grant.
Okay.
And number 8 was the Trump grant. And that's the one that is $13,000.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay?
We don't have any questions regarding that. I'll entertain a motion to accept the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, FAA grant in the amount of $32,000 with zero match to be used for airport operations and maintenance.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second? All right. Go to a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed, motion passes. Moving on to the second one, I'll entertain a motion to accept the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, FAA grant in the amount of $13,000 with zero match to be used for airport operations and maintenance. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Go to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None are opposed, motion passes. Moving on to the motion to award construction contract for the terminal area expansion plan phase 1A grading and drainage project to the low bidder, Southern Pipe and Grading, at a price not to exceed $871,405.49.
So we've talked about this one quite a bit. It was the subject of a competitive bid back in the spring. Y'all participated in that. You have seen the bid tabs. You have seen the results of the bids. It was a very competitive bidding process. We've completed our due diligence. We believe that Southern Pipe and Grading is a qualified and a local supplier. We're happy to have them, and so we're ready now to award the contract at the bid price.
The liquidated damages, I'm a novice to that. Harold, does all that look to be in order? I guess I'll
Yes, sir, brother.
kind of
I looked it over,
lean on you. Okay.
I was looking, I thought I had a question on something, but it wasn't an important one. If it was, I would remember.
All right, if there's no other questions, I'll read this again. I'll entertain a motion to award the construction contract for the terminal area expansion plan phase 1A grade and drainage project to the lowest bidder, Southern Pipe and Grading, at a price not to exceed $871,405.49. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
And a second. Move on to voting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, would you like to speak to the motion to award the engineering and support contract for the terminal area expansion plan Phase 1A grading and drainage project to Holt Engineering in the amount of $63,900.
Yes, so anytime you do a construction project of this complexity, you need an engineer of record for the project. Remember that this project was designed in 2010 by a company called LPA that no longer exists. And so Holt has, over the last 5 years, they have spun up on this project. Many of their staff used to work for LPA. They were already very familiar with the project. One of their subcontractors is Jennifer Aulick and Associates. Jennifer designed all of the stormwater drainage and water quality management systems here at the airport, so she's on board for environmental controls, where the silk fences go, that sort of thing. They will be doing inspections to make sure that the contractor is doing everything they're supposed to do, and then as questions come up during construction, we've got an engineer available. And I will point out that Holt did a lot of work at their risk. There's a form called the 7460. That's your form that allows you to do construction on an airport. They handled getting all of that approved with the FAA before they ever got on contract, again at their risk. They handled the construction safety plan, which is also required anytime you're working at an airport. They've got that approved by the FAA and several other design changes and so forth that we're going along the way. So we will be paying them for the work that they've already done, plus all of the work that we anticipate them doing as this contract moves forward. And you've got a copy of their work authorization. And for them and their subs, that price comes to $63,900.
Question. I read through these books. There were a lot of.
It's only 400 pages.
Yeah, I read through every bit of it. The question I had was on testing.
Yes.
Now, did I not, maybe I remember at a previous meeting, we were talking about maybe, was it the county providing a little bit of help in the inspection side? I know in here that Holt is required on the testing, but it's minimal testing.
No, all testing is funded. So there are two pieces. There's inspection and there is testing. So they have a subcontractor called Nova, Terra Nova, who is providing the testing part of the oversight. So they're going to be testing things like the soil. You know, we've got some soil issues out there where we've bought the wetlands mitigation rights, for example. And in order to cover that in, you've got to make sure that the soil will compact. So you may have to muck out the soil and then put fresh dirt where the wetlands used to be. And so Nova will be handling the soil testing to make sure that we get the compaction that is specified in the contract. So the testing was fully funded. What we chose not to fund was the 100% inspector that Croy was going to supply. We felt that we could do that piece of it. That's basically verifying that every day as the work is progressing, that everything is proceeding in accordance with the design documentation. Nova will, in fact, probably have somebody here every day or almost every day and all of the soil testing and compaction testing and so forth that they're responsible for, but they do not verify design compliance. Okay, that'll be on us to do. So that part of the inspection we will be doing.
Well, the compaction was my biggest issue.
Yeah, that is going to be tested, and that's going to be Nova's responsibility.
Okay, I just want to make sure it is compacted properly because
Correct.
the people who build on top of that
They care.
are not responsible for underneath.
That's right.
If they have a problem, it could be from underneath. So
That's
I
right.
wanna make sure. Okay.
That's right.
All right, good.
All right.
All right, if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to award the engineering and support contract for the terminal area expansion plan Phase 1A grading and drainage project to Holt Engineering in the amount of $63,900.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
All right. Move on to a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope, the motion carries. the special event permit. Did we get that?
You did not. Let me speak to
Okay.
this one. We had a meeting Monday with the Board of Education and others that are putting together the STEM event. This is the outdoor STEM event that we have done every year, I guess since the airport has opened. It's a Board of Education event, but it is outdoors, therefore we need a special use permit. And they're gonna blame Tom, because they say Tom's gotta approve you don't know this yet, I'm sure, but they want Tom to review
They
the
blame you
special
for everything.
event, that's right, permit before they sign it and turn it back into us. So I'm gonna ask y'all to go ahead and approve the event, even though you don't see the special use, because this is the Paulding County Board of Education. This is, in a sense, a trusted partner in that sense, and we, of course, would do anything we could to help the Board of Education. But rather than delay this for another month, which will be less than 30 days then from when their event is scheduled to take place, I would like to ask y'all to go ahead and approve the use of the apron in the building for the Board of Education STEM event, pending final approval from the Board of Education of our special use permit.
Do you limit the number of students?
They limit the number of students, it's 500. They're gonna have 10 cadres of 50 each. And so I think they're limiting it to 500. And they're not all here at the same time. There will be 250 on a rotation in the morning and 250 on rotation in the afternoon.
Okay, you have enough personnel to handle all that?
They provide all the personnel.
You guys good with going up without the paperwork? Okay. All right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the special event permit as Carrie explained for the Paulding County School District STEM event to be held Friday, September 3rd, 2021, pending PSCD approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, go to a vote. All in favor of the approval of the special event permit, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next one, Hearts for Heroes.
So in Hearts for Heroes, you do have that paperwork for you. This will be our second anniversary of the Hearts for Heroes event. Probably one of the most successful outdoor events we've ever had here at the airport last year. It's a Chamber of Commerce event. They do have a representative here if you have any questions for the Chamber. So, do you have any questions for either of us? Okay.
Thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the special event permit for the Paulding Chamber of Commerce Hearts for Heroes event to be held Saturday, November 13th, 2021.
So moved.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, what's not on the agenda, but we would like to move to executive session to discuss real estate and personnel. So I'll entertain a motion.
And litigation.
And litigation. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second? All right. All in favor, say aye. All right, and we will adjourn. Thank you. Any opposed? We will be back. All right, we'll report back in that no actions were taken during our executive session. Next, we have comments and questions. Any comments or questions, board? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment of the meeting. So moved. And a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. All right, none opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you for your attendance.